Hey everyone, welcome back to True Crimes and Mystery, the channel where we unravel the darkest secrets, the unsolved riddles, and the shocking truths that keep us up at night. If you're loving these deep dives into the shadows of humanity, do me a huge favor. Smash that subscribe button right now, hit the bell icon and join our community of insert subscriber count if known truth seekers. We drop new videos every week and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Alright, let's lock the doors, dim the lights, and step into one of the most haunting cold cases in American history. A story that's gripped Austin, Texas, for over 3 decades. This is the tale of the yogurt shop murders, a quadruple homicide that shattered a community and baffled detectives, until just weeks ago, in September 2025, when a DNA breakthrough finally cracked the case wide open. Picture this. It's a balmy Friday night in Austin, Texas, December 6, 1991. The city is buzzing with holiday cheer, but inside a small, family-run yogurt shop called I Can't Believe It's Yogurt on West Anderson Lane, 4 teenage girls are closing up for the night. These weren't just any girls, they were the heart of their families, full of dreams and laughter. There was 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison, the responsible big sister who worked there to save for college. Her 15-year-old sister Sarah, bubbly and artistic, tagging along to help out. Their best friend, 17-year-old Eliza Thomas, a straight-A student with a bright future in journalism. And the youngest, 13-year-old Amy Ayers, a sweet kid who had just started her shift as a favor to the Harbisons. They were the picture of innocence in a city known for its live music and laid-back vibe. But around 11 p.m., as the clock ticked toward closing, evil walked through that door. What happened next would become one of the most gruesome crimes in Texas history. The girls were ambushed inside the shop. Witnesses later reported hearing what sounded like gunshots and screams coming from the direction of the yogurt shop around 11:15 p.m. But in the pre-smartphone era, no one thought to call it in right away. It wasn't until the shop's owner, Forrest Wellborn, arrived to open up the next morning that the horror unfolded. He smelled smoke before he even unlocked the door. Inside, the register was empty, $600 stolen, and the back room was a nightmare. The shop had been set ablaze with charcoal lighter fluid, but the fire hadn't fully consumed the evidence of unimaginable brutality. The 4 girls were found bound with their own clothing, stripped naked, shot execution style in the head, at close range with a .22 caliber pistol and a .380 caliber handgun. There were signs of sexual assault, and one girl, poor Amy Ayers, had been strangled and beaten so severely that her face was unrecognizable. The killer, or killers, had poured accelerant on the bodies and lit the match, hoping to erase their tracks. But the fire department put out the flames quickly, preserving just enough to launch what would become a 34-year odyssey for justice. Austin Police Department jumped on it immediately. This wasn't just a robbery gone wrong. The savagery suggested something personal, ritualistic even. Over 150 leads poured in the first week alone. Detectives interviewed classmates, canvassed the neighborhood, and chased down every tip about shady customers or jealous exes. The media dubbed it the yogurt shop murders, and the city reeled. Vigils popped up, parents double-locked their doors, and the Harbison family, already shattered by losing 2 daughters, became the face of grief. Barbara Ayers Wilson, the girl's mother, would later say in interviews that the pain never dulled, it just became a constant companion. But as months turned to years, the trail went cold. No fingerprints matched in the database. The bullets were too common. And that semen found on Amy Ayers? The DNA tech of the 90s couldn't pinpoint a suspect. By 1993, the case was shelved, haunting the APD's cold case unit like a ghost. Fast forward to 1998, a break, or so it seemed. 2 former suspects from the original investigation, 19-year-old Michael Scott and 23-year-old Robert Springsteen IV, were pulled back in after a tip about a conversation they had years earlier. Under intense interrogation, some say coercive, both confessed. Scott claimed they went in for a robbery. Things escalated, and they shot the girls. Springsteen corroborated, adding details only the killer would know. 2 other teens, Maurice Pierce and Jason Burkett, were implicated too, though they never confessed. In 2001 and 2002, Scott and Springsteen went to trial. No physical evidence tied them to the scene. No DNA, no ballistics match. It was all circumstantial, built on those confessions. Juries convicted them anyway, capital murder, sentences of life without parole. Pierce and Burkett's charges were dropped for lack of evidence. The appeals process dragged on, with families on both sides torn apart. The convicted men's supporters cried frame up, the victims' families clung to closure. But in 2009, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals overturned the convictions. Why? Constitutional violations in the interrogations, coerced statements, no lawyers present. Before a retrial could happen, bam! Advanced DNA testing on that semen under Amy's fingernails pointed to someone else entirely. The four were released, their records cleared. Scott, now in his 40s, rebuilt his life as a musician. Springsteen became an advocate for the wrongfully convicted. And the yogurt shop case? Back to square one, colder than ever. Enter the modern era of forensics. Since 2008, detectives had been chipping away with YSTR DNA testing. That's Y chromosome short tandem repeats, a way to trace male lineages even from mixed samples. They ran it through databases, but nothing. Then, in June 2022, a new lead detective, Daniel Jackson, took the reins. He dusted off an old 380 shell casing from the scene, one that hadn't been run through the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN, in decades. NIBIN is like CODIS for bullets. It scans markings on casings to link crimes. In July 2022, jackpot, the casing matched an unsolved 1991 murder in Kentucky. Similar MO, young female victim, sexual assault, fire to cover tracks. No direct link, but it screamed serial. Fast forward to August 2024. A lab in South Carolina runs a manual search on the YSTR profile from the yogurt shop against their database. Hit. It matches Robert Eugene Brashers, a drifter with a rap sheet longer than a Texas highway. Who was Brashers? Born in 1958, he was a violent predator. Paroled in 1989 after shooting a woman in the head during a 1987 rape attempt. By 1990, he'd murdered a woman in Greenville, South Carolina. Sexual assault, strangulation, left for dead. DNA linked him to at least 5 other unsolved killings and assaults across the South in the early 90s. Mississippi, Tennessee, you name it. He was a ghost, hopping state to state, evading capture. Host. Austin PD retested everything. The YSTR from under Amy Ayer's fingernails. Direct match to Brasher's profile, pulled from his South Carolina conviction. The 380 casing. Ballistics confirmed it came from a gun tied to his crimes. And get this, Brasher's was in Texas in late 1991, just miles from the yogurt shop according to parole records. The puzzle pieces snapped together. This wasn't a random robbery. It was the work of a serial rapist killer who saw opportunity in 4 vulnerable teens.
Host. Off-screen. On September 29, 2025, less than 2 weeks ago, Austin Police Chief Lisa Davis stood at a press conference, her voice steady but eyes heavy. After 34 agonizing years, she said, we have identified the man responsible, Robert Eugene Brashers. The room erupted in questions. Travis County DA Jose Garza followed, owning the department's past mistakes. He vowed to take responsibility for the wrongful convictions, noting that if the original prosecutors had DNA access back then, Scott and Springsteen might still be behind bars for other crimes, but not this one. Garza apologized to the exonerees, promising to right the wrongs, including potential compensation.
Host. VO. For the families, it's bittersweet. Barbara Ayers Wilson, mother of Jennifer and Sarah, spoke through tears. We've waited so long for the truth. Not vengeance, just truth. And now we have it. Amy Ayers' sister, a child at the time of the murders, has carried the weight of identifying her sister's body. Eliza Thomas's parents, both educators, turned their grief into advocacy, pushing for better cold case funding. They all echoed the same sentiment: justice delayed is justice denied. But better late than never. Host. Brashers? He cheated the system one last time. In 1999, cornered by Mississippi cops for another assault, he barricaded himself and died by suicide. No trial, no confession. But the DNA doesn't lie. He's the monster behind the masks, the fire, the finality. Host. The yogurt shop. Murders remind us how fragile life is, how technology can resurrect the dead to speak for the living. Austin has healed some scars, but others remain, reminders to fight for the forgotten. If this story gripped you, drop a like, share it with a friend who loves true crime, and comment below, what's the coldest case you want us to cover next? The Black Dahlia, the Zodiac, let me know. Host, thanks for watching, Mystery Hunters. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, in the dark, truth is our flashlight. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.